Well, good evening. This is going to be a relatively quick show. We have a lot of material to cover, and we're going to try to cover it very quickly. If you want a deep dive, you can watch the Sunday Calexit meeting where we went all over this in detail with commentary. It's about an hour long. I'm going to try to make this just a few minutes so that everybody can understand. This analysis comes from the last week. We've been very busy figuring out how the recent reelection of Donald Trump will be affecting California and California independence. We generally view it as a good thing for California independence, not for people in general. But before we get started, I need to make this special statement. This is from CEO Jason Wright. My fellow Californians, I speak to you now at a somber time during these moments of panic and worry to alleviate fears and inspire hope. We have an option to pursue self governance for California, but it will take all of our collective effort to achieve this. We have an option, but only if we are willing to work together for a common good. We have a way out to safety, but it will require us to let go of our misgivings and doubts. In 2016, we tried to help spare the people of California from the tyranny of the American federal government. We were met with much optimism and hope, but also had mainstream media persons tell bold faced lies about us and our movement after having initially supported the idea, which were later disproven. We have a choice going forward. We can either listen to the lies, continue to believe the words of our oppressors, or we can take our collective future into our own hands and Calexit now. The other big message that the CEO wanted to make sure that I got right was that we're not doing the I told you so. The fact is that we said some of the conclusions that we're going to cover tonight 8 years ago, and now finally people are ready to listen. That's mostly why it's the best time to Calexit. We're not saying we told you so, but it is effectively something we said 8 years ago, and now everybody's coming to the conclusion. So, what are we talking about, and what is the main thrust for this evening? We're going to cover this chart. This is talking about where Calexit stands today and why now is the best time to Calexit. I'm going to show some of the major pitfalls the movement has faced, and now we have surpassed them all. So first, we're going to start with in 2016, one of the first big hurdles for Calexit was that people would say, no one's ever going to buy this idea, no one's ever going to join, no one's ever going to believe in you, etc. So no one will ever support Calexit. Well, what happened in response to that was that we had Donald Trump get elected. And it turned out that when Donald Trump was elected, 1 in 3 Californians automatically supported Calexit. Now, before this happened, we started in 2014. We were told this is a radical idea. This is crazy. Nobody's ever going to support it. In 2015, we were told no one is ever going to support this. This is crazy. Nobody will ever get behind it. And then in 2016, 32% of all Californians came forward and said, yeah, we're ready for secession today, not to discuss, to leave today. So that first point that nobody would ever support Calexit was obliterated in 2016. 32% for, and 47.5% said they were willing to discuss secession. According to Reuters, Ipsos, and Stanford University, it wasn't just 32% for, it was 47.5% willing to discuss, 32% for. Now, the next major hurdle that we had was it's illegal to vote for independence. You can't possibly put a vote for independence in front of the California people. That's illegal. That can't possibly happen. All right, well, let's take a look at what happened. Issue 2, it is illegal to vote for independence. That's what a lot of people were saying around 2015 to 2017. And here's what happened. We actually filed 3 separate initiatives approved by 3 separate California attorneys general, Javier Becerra, who works for Biden, Kathleen Kennelly, and Kamala Harris. Kamala Harris signed it on April 28, 2015, Kennelly January 10th, 2017, and Becerra July 10th, 2017. All 3 of them approved initiatives for California to secede. In that text, you can see they're specifically pointing out Texas versus White, and it does say you can secede through consent of the states. The Secretary of State also had to put this on the California website. It was approved for gathering, and there it is in general. That's up at the California government website is that initiative that was filed. So we proved that you could file an initiative that would put a question in front of voters saying if they wanted to secede from America, and this was approved by three separate California attorneys general. So that was the second part. It's illegal to vote for independence. Not true. We completely disproved that by filing it 3 separate times with 3 separate people approving it. Okay. Well, let's move on to part 3. There is no legal path to leave America, and America will never let you leave. So there's no legal path to leave America, and they will never let you leave. And that was a major argument in 2018, right after Calexit got started. Okay. So what happened? Well, we basically proved them wrong. Because we had so many California attorneys general mention that Texas versus White is a Supreme Court legal case that does deal with secession and does say you can have consent to the states, and because they had to print that publicly on California government websites, the information started to get out there. In fact, this is one of our big turning points. David A. Carrillo was the executive director of the California Constitution Center, one of the top California constitutional scholars in the state. Now, in 2017, he said in an article, Talk of Calexit is a loser, March 17th, 2017, the San Francisco Chronicle, he said, quote, there is only one narrow path to secession, amending the U.S. Constitution, which requires approval by 2/3 of Congress and 38 of the states. Then, in September 5th, 2018, a year later, in an article called A Nation Within a Nation, latest version of California secession plan touches Native Americans for Los Angeles Daily News by Jeff Horseman, his tone was a little bit different. Texas versus White held that states cannot secede, and that decision's offhanded comment about states consenting probably refers to the constitutional amendment. So I hope everybody sees, in 2017, only one path to secession, must be an amendment. Then, after we pointed this out, guess who walked it back the very next year? Okay, there is a Texas versus White thing, and okay, there is a phrase of consent to the states that's there, but it probably refers to it. You said definitively there's only one way. Then the next year you walked it back. Wonder where that happened. So that was the third major hurdle that we destroyed. There's no legal path to leave America, and they'll never let you leave. We proved there was a legal path. And we got the top constitutional scholars in America to recognize that. Now, let's take a look at no one will ever let you leave. Well, the simple fact is that we think we can get the votes to leave, and that this is the best time. This is partly why we're saying it's the best time. Republicans own the House. First time, long time. There it is. Republicans own the House, and they own the presidency and the Senate, giving them a trifecta. So Republicans are the most in power at the federal level than they've ever been. People were shocked to see that they won the House. There it is. They won the presidency and the Senate. Now, here's the great thing. Republicans hate California. So when Donald Trump was president, the Republican Party had their national convention all about how California was not America and California is a horrible state. I talked to historians and they said, can you tell me the last time one of the two political parties that runs this country focused their entire convention on a single state? People had to go back to the 1880s and talk about New York. So it's been a century since a political party has focused on one state. Here in California, the last few years, the Republicans said, as a party at their national convention, biggest point they wanted to make, California's not America. Not America, not us. Hate them. Well, if you need more proof, this quote, this idea, this tweet came out recently. Let's have California secede. And here was the response by a bunch of Republicans. Not in California. Please leave. Get the hell out. So someone just talked about secession. And here was the Republican thing. Get the hell out, California. Don't care. Maybe that's because they had a convention just a few years ago saying that California is the anti-America. But actually, this goes back way back. 2017, a third of Californians would not be missed if they left. Then we can go to this. Rest of the USA to America, make our day with Calexit. They're talking about how a lot of Americans said, go ahead and leave. We don't care. We don't like you. Then here's out-of-state conservatives are some of Calexit's biggest fans. Conservatives in outside of California love the idea of California leaving. Then we talked about, well, in 2016, and each one of these articles is based upon a news article. So you can see the link in the bottom in the red. That's the original source article. We didn't make this up. This isn't our opinion. These are real source articles talking about how get the hell out. We don't care if you want to leave. No one likes you. Go ahead and go. Here's one. 2014, Fox News viewers did a poll. What state do they want kicked out of America? California, 2014. Most and least patriotic states, California, least patriotic state. That's another thing. That was in ABC San Francisco. That was California News that said that. Why people love to hate California. San Francisco Chronicle saw so much hate at California from outside of California by most of my conservatives, they had to do an article about it in 2016. Why do so many people hate Californians? Another article. Let me shut down that banner real quick. On YouTube. Then in 2012, a lot of people hate California. They did a poll. Only 44% view California favorably across America, less than half. Half of Republicans hate California. That came out last year. Last year, half of the Republicans in America hate California. Republicans hate California. So you can see that there is a lot of Republican hate going back over a decade where people are saying, wow, conservatives really hate us. This happened last week with conservatives saying, get the hell out. And this happened a few years ago. They made their whole convention about get the hell out. Well, now conservatives are the most in power they've ever been. They could literally vote us out all on their own. Sound too crazy? Well, let's take a look at the top constitutional scholar in California. His name is Erwin Chemerinsky. He wrote in an article, or he was interviewed by Daniel Riley on April 27, 2017, in an article for GQ magazine called The California Secession Movement's Ecstatic Rise and Unexpected Collapse. In theory, because it was a majority vote of Congress to admit California, in theory, majority vote of Congress could approve secession. So, who is Chemerinsky? He was named the most influential person in legal education across all of America in 2024. Most influential legal person in all of America 2024. He also was faculty at Duke University. He started the Irvine School of Law. Then he became dean of the UC School Berkeley of Law. He's basically been dean of multiple University of California schools of law. And in this article, he said, you could secede with a simple majority vote of Congress. Remember when these three separate California attorneys general approved the initiative? I want you to see that text. In 1869, following the Civil War, the U.S. Supreme Court ruled in Texas versus White that the national act of admission a state into the Union was final. There was no place for reconsideration or revocation, the court said, except through revolution or through consent of the states. That's Kamala, April 28, 2015, Kathleen Kennedy, January 10, 2017, and Javier Becerra, July 10th, 2017, each one of them mentioning that that was there. So Republicans control the House and the Senate and the presidency, and they have the votes. They hate us, and we only need a simple majority to get out. So now we have the votes we need. That's why this is the best time to Calexit. In the past, we didn't necessarily have that, but now, no legal path to leave America, that's obliterated, and they'll never let you leave. Right now, for the next 2 years, the people who hate us are in control of the federal government and have more than enough votes to allow us to legally Calexit. That's a fact. All right, so let's look at the next one. No one thinks California is a nation state. Well, that was true for a while. And I remember when we were starting Calexit in 2014, people would laugh at us. It's not a nation state. That's ridiculous. But that's gone now. So Gavin Newsom was the governor of California. And when coronavirus hit in 2020, he said, California is a nation state, and we're going to ignore all federal regulations. And we're going to go on the open market because we're the world's 5th largest economy and quasi-nation state and deal directly with China to get the equipment that we need. So we're going to go deal with other nations on our own. we're going to ignore all federal input, and we're calling ourselves a nation state at the same time. New York Times, LA Times, Constitutional Center, Guardian, Yahoo Finance, this was all over the place. So now Californians say, we're totally a nation state. And when he said nation state, he said, we're a nation state and we're going to ignore what the federal government does and we're going to have our own relations with independent countries. That's what happened. So that obliterated this concept that no one would ever say you're a nation state. 2022, Governor Newsom routinely says nation state. Now everybody does. So now let's get down to why this is really the best. A, we have the legal path to leave, and now we finally have the votes to leave. One second. Finally have the votes to leave. That's the truth. Okay, let's get to this last section. Trump does not represent America, and you can fix America. Well, when we started Calexit back in the day in 2016, we got really big. And a lot of people said you don't need to Calexit because the resist movement will work. You can fix America. Why? Because Trump is a fluke, doesn't represent America at all. That's what they would say. So we put together this list. The Hill, Libs Exchange protests for cupcakes and tears at minute 2, breaking points minute 4:11 and 6:13. Kamala declares she's the resistant leader to Trump. MSNBC, reactions to 2024 election. Breakfast Club at minute 5:27. Charlemagne the God reacts to Trump winning the 2024 election. Olorinati, minute 3:19 and 6:16. Watch Donald Trump won and America will regret it. MSNBC, minute 5:44. Just got darker and darker. IHIP, minute 38 seconds in. IHIP News, Trump wins, America loses. Roland Martin, minute 1. Watch America got what it wanted and America's going to get what it deserves with Roland Martin. Late Show with Stephen Colbert, minute 6:03. Plunging back into the Trump hole. Daily Show, minute 6:52 to 7:08. Desi Lidek reacts to Trump's election win and media blame game. And minute 7, watch post-election update from Brian Tyler Cohen. We don't have all of the graphics for that. There's a separate episode. You need to watch this episode that we're going to be releasing soon. Mainstream media finally accepts talking points of Calexit made 8 years ago. This is Trump's America. So we have put together about 8 references from people across the internet, multiple liberals, saying, oh my God, this is Trump's America. He really does own it. Now, when we did Calexit in 2016, we were told this isn't Trump's America. He's a fluke. You don't need to Calexit. You can resist. We were told in 2016, don't need to Calexit. You can resist because Trump is a fluke and does not represent America. That's what we were told. Now, people are not buying it. All these people are saying, well, actually, it looks like this is Trump's America, and it isn't a fluke, and this is actually the America that Trump wants. So that is a major breaking point for us. We were saying in 2016 that Trump was legitimately elected and he is the leader of America and this is Trump's America. And we were told, no, he's not. Russia put him in, a foreign government or a minority of voters. He doesn't represent the will of America. Now, so it was, you don't need to worry about Trump because we can fix the federal government, we can get him out and we can make everything return to normal. And so a lot of people did not pursue Calexit because they believed that the resist movement would work. That concept's obliterated now. So all of these people are liberals who are upset about what's going on. And they're all saying, I guess this is Trump's America. That's the episode. Mainstream media finally accepts talking points Calexit made 8 years ago. This is Trump's America. Californians would not accept that in 2016. It's 2024. Now, finally, Californians are accepting this is not Trump's America. In fact, Newsweek covered this talking point from us. They found it interesting. It's clear that a majority of America, including California's population, likes Trump. and what he stands for. No more telling ourselves lies this time as California as to what this means. So even Newsweek is printing the narrative that we had 8 years ago, November 12th, 2024. The concept that we had in 2016, nobody wanted to hear, everybody doubted, nobody listened to us. Now everybody's saying it. So besides the Republicans being able to vote us out on their own, this is the other great thing. Nobody's fighting this point anymore. So Trump does represent America. And now everybody finally gets that. That was not the case in 2022. So here's the last point. Can we fix the USA? How about we resist? Well, the good news here is that we actually know how well the resist movement worked out. So in 2016, Californians were sure they could fight back against Trump and push him back. But here's the reality. California failed 50% of the time. California trade war was launched. Trump managed to cut down on skilled immigrant labor, reduce the flow of immigrants to work agriculture. He also managed to cut Obamacare to hundreds of thousands of Californians. The Supreme Court ruled that women and minorities don't have a right to class action lawsuits against discrimination. They don't have a right to prosecute police who burst in their home without a warrant and accidentally gun and kill them down in their own home. The highest court also said it is legal for businesses to discriminate against LGBTQ customers, and the military can ban some LGBTQ citizens from joining. It is also legal for federal agents to pursue racial profiling for immigration policing, and they do racially profile Latinos with impunity in California currently. California also failed to stop funding for the racist border wall, stop construction of the wall, punish California companies who wanted to work for California, work for Trump to build the wall. California has also failed to ensure 2/3 of its police agencies don't work with ICE officials, and that companies don't help ICE officials to do mass arrests of undocumented people, and that undocumented people are not held in unlimited detention, and that they don't die in camps. California failed on all of that. California's also failed to protect legal immigrants who can be blocked from asylum and blocked from entering because they are Muslim, and the federal government can punish California by withholding funds because it chooses to protect the undocumented. Now, in 2016, we said, we're going to protect everybody. We're going to protect gay people. We're going to protect the land. We're going to protect the water. We're going to protect our undocumented. We basically failed on everything with the undocumented. We put up a good show, but when it comes to it, the federal system trumps the state system. And so California failed. If you need it, here's the article. I wrote it 5 years ago. Nobody wants to talk about this in the media. Prevented Trump from engaging in trade war. Fail. Prevented Trump blocking skilled immigrants. Preventing Trump blocking unskilled immigrants. Fail. Prevented Trump from removing funding for healthcare and removing California's health insurance. Fail. Prevented discrimination against women and minorities. Fail. Prevented discrimination against women and minorities, Part 2, from police. Fail. Prevented discrimination against LGBTQ, Part 1, by businesses. Failed. Prevented discrimination against LGBT, ban a transgender from serving in the military. Failed. Blocked the construction of the border wall. Failed. Blocked the construction of the border wall, Part 2, even with 16 states. California failed. Blocked the construction of the border wall, Part 3. They couldn't do it. The justices had to go forward and approve it. Protecting immigrants, preventing the racist immigration ban, total fail on that. Protecting undocumented immigrants, they did not for healthcare. Protecting undocumented immigrants, they could not protect them from racial profiling. Protecting undocumented immigrants, they could not prevent immigration officials from mass arrests. They could not prevent companies from working with those officials, and they could not prevent the police force from working with the cops to deport a lot of people. Finally, if we're looking at undocumented immigrants, Agustina Arreola, Vincent Maradiaga, Sergio Lopez, Osmar Gadba, Igor Zyabin, Jose Hernandez, and Jose Bucio all died in federal detention camps. So we've gone through and shown you that in 2016, they said no one will ever support Calexit. That's destroyed. They said it's illegal to vote for independence. That's not true now. They said there's no legal path to leave America. That's destroyed. And America will never let you leave. That's totally obliterated recently. No one thinks California's a nation state. Not after 2020 with Newsom. Blown away. Trump does not represent America. Finally, the mainstream media is ready to recognize what we were saying 8 years ago. Yes, he does. And as I just showed you, we now know from the 4 years against Trump, we cannot save California from Trump and we can't fix it. So please reflect on this. Everybody finally gets it now. This is Trump's America, and the only way out is to leave. Thank you.